Today's home feels like a scene from the movies, literally, drawing inspiration from a Hollywood hit and infusing that art direction into the overall home design masterpiece. It takes modern contemporary design to the next level, leaving the owners of the home and those who view it in absolute awe. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we take a look at a modern contemporary South African masterpiece set in Inanda, Johannesburg. We chat to architect Nico van der Meulen and his team about what inspired this contemporary South African home. How's it, Nico?
Hi, fine, thanks. Yourself,
I'm completely fascinated by the screen outside. It looks magnificent.
Thank you.
What was the inspiration behind it?
We wanted to create sun control on the north side of the house. And when we finally hit on these screens, after about 11 attempts at different designs, we found it started creeping around the house. So it became almost a trademark of the house in the end. And then we played with it to try and make it not so obvious how we keep it up in the air.
Well, I must say, it almost looks like an art piece in itself and perfectly complemented by this beautiful sculpture in the corner here upon entry.
Yes, my son did this for the owner, creating these sculptures based on the fragility of the human body. The whole idea of placing it here was that it's sort of a welcome gesture at the front door and sort of pique your interest what is going on inside here if something like that is standing outside.
Well, I have to say it's mission accomplished. I feel like I'm about to enter a world-class art gallery just behind this private door.
Let me show you around.
Thank you. Upon entering, the transparency of the house becomes evident, with views out over the multi-level hall, lounge, spa and pool, as well as over the double-volume family room, dining room, lanai and kitchen.
Now, this is normally filled with water, but they switched off the jacuzzi, so the water stopped flowing through.
Is that a jacuzzi?
It's a jacuzzi.
The whole of the living, kitchen, breakfast area opens totally through the use of frameless concertina doors to the lanai and garden. Well, Nico, I must say, the most obvious element out here are the screens. What would you say are the key architectural elements outside of that?
I think the screens are basically the key architectural feature on the house, but also the way it just floats with no support. And then the other key feature is the open plan living space, the fact that this whole wall opens up and the house becomes basically a veranda.
I believe the homeowner's brief was to have as little walls as possible. What else did the brief entail?
They wanted this sort of open plan living, but we've also got these sliding walls that slides over different areas and closes it up when you want to, or closes it off when you want to. But on the other hand, you can open the whole house and the whole house becomes a veranda. Now you'll find that even upstairs in the main bedroom, the whole north wall just disappears. And the bedroom becomes like living in a tent. And then the other thing that made a big difference was these steel structures, where we've got much smaller beams and columns than what you would normally have if you're using concrete. So the result is that the glass looks bigger and more clean and more high-tech.
I love the fact that privacy and security have been well considered in this home, yet it hasn't affected the mood, look and feel of the entire home.
Yes, now we tried to take both into consideration and make it work both ways. For, a lot of time it's the client alone in the house with his wife, and they want to still have a house that's nice to live in. But then they do have a big family and big groups of people visiting, so the house was designed that they can entertain on a large scale also.
And what would you say were the non-negotiables for the client?
I think the fact that it had to be modern, that there's nothing traditional here, that it had to be as contemporary as we could make it.
I really want to go back to the floating element of this home. It really feels like everything is kind of elevated to some space. How do you create notions of that around the home?
We usually try to do things that you don't expect and try to find solutions that you don't see every day, so that you get something that's a little bit more unique, something that's special that people look at and say, but how did you do that? What is keeping this roof above your head up in the air?
Now, you mentioned something really interesting. What holds these screens up?
A little bit of engineering sleight of hand. There is small little crosses, if you look up there.
Yeah.
That is high tension bars.
Yeah.
And that's basically what holds it up.
Now, Nico, I must say I have a strong appreciation for the fact that every single room in this home has exposure to northern lighting, and that was deliberately done.
Yes, now a big philosophy of our company is functionalism. And for me, a place is not functional if it's not facing north. And I hate these dark holes that people create on the south side of the house with no north sun. So we used roof lights, we used elevated roofs with windows between different roofs and so forth to bring in light everywhere. Some of it was even an afterthought. The big skylight over the walkway at the top, they were busy putting up the roof and I was standing here with a client and I said to him, you know, that'll make a beautiful skylight. It'll never get any sun, but it'll give you the light. And he immediately says, go for it. And we created that big top-lit walkway.
And it's beautiful how the morning sun streams into the kitchen. It must be a delight in the morning.
Yeah, we normally try to put our kitchens in the northeast corner. So there's morning light, there's winter light and sun. And then in the afternoon when you want to cook, it's nice and cool because the sun is on the other side of the house.
Well, Nico, I love what's happening on the outside, but I'd love to discuss with you about the interior architectural elements. Shall we do it?
After you.
Thank you very much.
Don't go away. After the break, we explore the interior of this modern contemporary home. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're exploring a modern contemporary South African masterpiece set in Inanda, Johannesburg. Before the break, we chatted to architect Nico van der Meulen, who designed this spectacular home. And now we get to explore the interior.
I mean, well, hello, double volume. I mean, this really creates an open space and really meets the objective of, you know, having an open plan space.
Yes, no, that was the whole idea, that it must be this airy, open, flowing space with all the north light flooding in and so many different levels of light coming in.
And what would you say, once again, are the key architectural elements to create this kind of atmosphere in the interior?
I think the main thing is to try and create interest, that it's not just four walls and a ceiling, that there is interest. And you know, lots of people don't realize that the ceiling is just about the biggest surface you see in a house. And unless you bring in some interest there, you've got this big flat dead space above your head and nothing there, whilst all the interest is lower down. By bringing some interest into the ceilings, the whole house becomes more interesting.
Now, there's so much natural light coming into the home, and yet it doesn't feel so hot or overwhelming. Is that because of the use of the screens?
Yes, the screens are basically what the French call brise-soleil, which is basically sunscreens. So at the moment with the sun being very high up in summer, you'll see that the shadow is just about a solid shadow. Whilst in winter, when the sun starts tilting, the sun comes through and this whole area is flooded with sunlight. Whereas at the moment there's a little bit of dappled sunlight here, not enough to heat the room up, but it still feels good.
Now, I believe you've taken extra precaution in terms of temperature control.
Yes, we've installed a geothermal system which comprises 9 boreholes, each 100 meters deep, where we use the heat of the earth to heat the house in winter and cool it in summer. So we use a direct heat exchange to do that. And coupled with the full home automation, the whole system works as one. And like for instance, with the doors open now, the air conditioning automatically switched off, and now it's wasting energy to try and keep the house cooler.
The interior of the home was very well thought out. With an open plan design, sliding glass panels can be used to hide the bar and kitchen when not used, creating a more intimate setting. On the catwalk, a study, pajama lounge and kitchenette are hidden behind sliding wooden panels. The study and pajama lounge leads onto an expansive private balcony. The interior design needed to complement the exterior architecture with modern contemporary furniture and straight, sleek lines. Justin from M² Life+Style Design breaks down the thinking around the interior design of this modern contemporary home.
Justin, this must have been a great canvas to work from. I mean, besides the beautiful artworks that you selected, this structure is an art piece in itself.
Yes, completely. And what Nico touched on in terms of the layout, the functionality, the different zones in the house, it made life easy for us from an interior design perspective to sort of allocate certain color tones, textures, furnishings to certain zones to assist in that sort of comfortable living aspect.
So how would you describe this kind of interior design style?
I would. It's mainly contemporary, but I think there's an element of eclecticism in it, where you've got different. You've got, for instance, the former lounge behind me, which has got this very specific art piece, which becomes the statement of that space. So the decoration or the decor side of it becomes the sort of eclectic element where you can change, and the design becomes the backdrop for this. And if you take away most of the decor items, you've still got a breathtaking design that sort of fill these spaces, but it mainly pivots around a contemporary interior space that follows the architecture.
I love your selection of furniture that kind of allows it to be for indoor and outdoor. Explain to me how you kind of create that balance.
The indoor-outdoor spaces that Nico created from an architecture point of view allowed us to choose furniture that caters for both. It's lounging outside, but it still feels like outdoor furniture. Same with the dining table next to the bar and the dining table inside. You've got these dining spaces that sort of overlap. You've got the living spaces that overlap, and the furniture speaks the same language.
Now, Nico's done so well to honor the no walls rule. Now, did that pose any challenges for you in terms of interior decor? Was it more of an opportunity?
It's both. No walls is always a challenge, but as you've seen, we've created some of our own walls. But it's great to have spaces that just open completely. And for instance, in the main bedroom, you've got the bathroom right next to the main bedroom, and it's completely open. But should you want some privacy, you can conceal it completely. So you've got this open plan notion, which is very contemporary and 21st century. But at the same time, we're developing this idea of a broken plan. So you've got the opportunity to introduce some walls with paneling, with glass, with shop fitting per se, and to break that plan up to introduce smaller pockets of space.
And how did the language of the interior decor kind of speak to the layout and flow of the overall home?
So all of the materials sort of link into each other. You can see from the foyer, we've got the ceiling that wraps through up to the double volume, wraps right the way through. So it becomes this element that you follow throughout the house. And the same with the color scheme. In terms of the exterior louvers, the color of the steel, we've brought that in to match the color of the glass, to match some of the decor elements to that color. So the thread runs from exterior to interior, and there's always lines and little patterns of light and details that you follow through each space.
Yeah. And if you could guide us through the selection of art pieces in this home, because I mean, it is a significant aspect of the home, what would you say we could follow?
Well, it all boils down to taste and personal preference. And everything is specific to each room in the house where the client wanted art. For instance, the lady behind us in the former lounge is from the movie, or from an artist in the movie Why Him, which the client was very fond about and wanted to track down this artist to commission a piece for him. So the art pieces are very specific to each zone and are client specific. So we do get involved and curate here or there, but the client understands the spaces and understands the living of this house, and therefore has art pieces that sort of add to that design.
And it might not be completely unusual to use glass to kind of separate certain spaces, but you've used a grey tint and you've added a bit of a glow to it. Why was it still important to stick to glass, even though it doesn't quite look like it?
Correct, yeah. We've employed the use of grey tinted glass with an acid etched finish to the front face of the glass. So what we see and what the guests see is a very soft glass. It's not highly reflective, not very glossy. And glass makes it nice because you can backlit it. You still create some intrigue. What's behind that glass wall? What's behind this glass wall, which we all know is quite impressive. So you create some intrigue, you put some backlighting behind it, and that gives you an additional layer. Whereas if it's just a wall or it's a solid piece of paneling, it takes away that depth a little bit.
Yeah. And talking about a duality, downstairs in the home theatre space, it kind of converts into any kind of room really, for entertainment or playroom for the kids, by the use of adding a bit of light.
Correct, yeah. So the light was a bit of a genius feature from Nico, allowing the jacuzzi to sort of putting a glass window into the jacuzzi to let that light filter through. So you can block that out and have a full viewing experience of the home cinema. You can open that up to have a bit of a entertainment space, playing games with friends, that sort of thing. So there's always a bit of a duality to everything in this house. So taking that idea further with natural lighting into the home cinema, we've got accent lighting throughout the house where you've seen the bulkhead. There's always an element of lighting that plays an important role, and that again is a duality in terms of responsibility from professionals, and we have the benefit of working with a great lighting specialist.
Well, whether it's natural lighting or curated lighting, it seems like it's the perfect complement to the interior decor. So I think my next stop is going to be with Jason.
When it comes to this home, lighting was very important in creating a seamless design, and there's more to it than what meets the eye.
Jason, it's really quite a treat to have you on the show because for the first time we have a lighting specialist, which is particularly fitting in this case because lighting plays such a pivotal role in this beautiful home. Let's start from the beginning. How involved were you in kind of the building process?
Well, we are very involved in the building process as we are part of the team, that gives you the completed project. The whole thing with the lighting is that a client will have this beautiful home that the architect or designer has created. Looks fabulous during the day, but if you don't actually light it at night, it becomes a dead canvas, if you want to call it that. So what we do is we basically take that beautiful creation that they have, work with it in the evening, bring out the architecture features and everything, and just help to give you that finished package that comes through with it. Especially with a designer like Nico van der Meulen, there's so much detail that normally falls through in their designs that they're actually one of the few teams or architectural teams that we work with that we actually work backwards. We have to wait for them to almost finish that masterpiece, finish that creation of theirs, and then we use those design parameters that they've given us and light things backwards. So if you look at this house, I think the most unique thing that you will realize, there's a very beautiful mesh detail or steel detail that's created outside. So when we were doing the lighting, we actually started off with that point at night where we actually concealed the lighting so it actually washes down that mesh screen that you've got. And as you get to the front door, there's this beautiful sculpture on the right-hand side. Yeah. So what we did is we actually created streaks in the roof just to pull you out to the front door, but we tried to create a dark spot so when we lit that sculpture up, it really popped.
Now, Jason, there are beautiful entertaining spaces around this home. How did you ensure that the lighting kind of complements the environment and space?
The whole thing, I think, is to keep it to very, very soft lighting. So there's a beautiful garden that's established over here. There's a beautiful gazebo, your outside patio. The theme that was given to us was they wanted to create a lot of soft mood lighting, a lot of indirect lighting, and the whole thing is not to have anything that's too bright. So for example, if you're using all your lighting elements together, they'll all work as a whole instead of individual pieces. So we create that more subtle thing. We also believe the biggest problem that we see in a lot of the states is with light pollution. So what happens is rather keep your lighting on your home, complementing your home, and the biggest mistake people make is they have lighting shining into their neighbors' houses, which doesn't do justice to anybody.
It really seems like lighting plays an experiential role in this home. Talk to me about that.
That's right. I mean, I think with this particular home, unlike many other homes, is the architects have created so many different design facets that we were able to light up. For example, if you look at all the podiums that run through, if you look at the floating TV ledges, if you look at the concrete wall detail, we were able to highlight these particular details and keep it as a very low-key amount of light, a lot of indirect lighting as opposed to seeing all the lights in your face. When you're entertaining, everything's coming from indirect sources, behind units, behind shelves, behind walls. If you look at the staircase over my shoulder as well, that staircase is floats, and there's that very unique detail of the balustrading even with the concealed lighting in. So I think all the indirect features will add up to give you enough light. There are additional lights if needed, but it's just about that experience as you go the whole way through, even going to the guest toilet. The guest toilet, for example, as well, is a much more sultry, a bit of a darker kind of room. It's more of an experience. It's not about your friends coming there, having enough light for doing makeup and stuff. It's about that experience of coming in there, being able to wash your hands and basically leave with a fresh design in mind.
Absolutely. It was a treat for me to walk in there. It matched my outfit.
Perfect.
When it comes to contemporary architecture, it does not box into one specific style, and it can be described as present-day building aesthetics, as it draws from many different styles of architecture, including high-tech architecture and postmodernism. Don't go away. After the break, we show you how you can achieve this look at home. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we explored a modern contemporary South African masterpiece set in Inanda, Johannesburg. Up next, we'll give you a few tips and tricks on how to get this look in your own home.
While styles like mid-century modern and Art Deco are rooted in specific eras, contemporary design is ever-changing. And so this home today feels like old Hollywood marries modern chic. And Tavi, grab the director's seat because we're about to set the scene for modern contemporary design.
Well, come on in, Dumelo. We're going to start with the dining area, and it's obviously working with that chicness. Very clean black dining table, clean chairs with a charcoal grey type of fabric on them. And then I thought to mimic the home style of the cross beams that are such a popular element in the style of the house, let's bring in this feature and make it into an artwork or a piece of furniture that we can really appreciate in the space. And again, another place that makes it very modern are the sliding doors and the windows that are just black steel throughout the interior.
I'm so glad you referred to the artworks because in past episodes we've spoken about artworks hanging on the wall, but we had a perfect opportunity today to talk about sculptures.
Yes.
They were such an integral part of the home aesthetic. Tell us how to incorporate that in our homes.
Well, in this home, obviously because it's very steel orientated, that's a very nice sculpture to bring into the interior because it complements the architectural standing. And when you do that, you marry the two in a language. It can be a piece of bone, it could be a piece of steel, but just something that's really conversational and striking. You bring it into the dining area, into a lounge, or into a very nice open space to allow you to appreciate and have distance to appreciate the work of art.
Well, having such vast artworks like that really spoke to the maturity of the home. And that maturity was probably most brought out by the color, and that you did touch on this earlier, but the darkness of the colors.
Yes.
It brought a kind of old Hollywood sophistication.
And Hollywood was all about moodiness.
Yes,
pure,
absolutely.
decadent luxury, blacks, onyx, charcoals, ebonies, and we just played on that array because what that allowed for is the lighting, because you know Hollywood is all about lighting, and then it plays so nicely on those textures. Even the shaggy rug, that is so old Hollywood feel. Again, bringing through the metal feel, and of course the velvets, the plushness, because Hollywood was all about celebrating the likes of James Bond,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
Marilyn Monroe, everybody who just wanted to be seen as living very palatial lives.
This lounge looks so sophisticated and suave. How do we achieve this look in our home and this mood in the home?
Well, first of all, I think our starting point is the corner suite.
Right.
We need that big, comfortable L-shaped corner suite with those cushions that are just slightly tilted back to create that lounging feel. And of course, the piece de resistance in this area is the shaggy. This is the original Hollywood glam feel.
It almost references those fur coats that you have during those, you know, it kind of plays homage
Which
to
is what the
those.
superstars wear.
Absolutely.
And that's where Hollywood is where they live. And then again, you bring in the velvets, the plushness, the sheenness, the metal, the dark woods. It's very moody. And that's why you then need the ambiance lights to just pick up and create that mood. I brought in a little bit of black marble here to play on the metal, and of course the chrome. And that hanging light that they've got over there just almost spilling over the coffee table and the corner suite is just beautiful.
So we're going for luxury premium looks here. It's really not about the family look in this instance.
No.
It's about going for that high-end touch.
Yes, and why not? For a change, you know, that not everything has to be florals and color and pink. Sometimes it's going to be a bit moody, but with the openness of the house, we're getting in a lot of light. We're getting a lot of feeling in it. It's not so oppressive.
Okay, director, help us get this old Hollywood chic look in our homes. What are our top 3 items?
Let's start with the ambiance of what Hollywood is. It's dark, it's black, it's onyx, it's somber in its feel, but very luxurious. So we need to do some beautiful velvets, grays, blacks, and playing on the metallics that you can see on this ottoman. So a little bit of silver coming through also on the side tables. And then, of course, the shaggy.
Ooh,
we need the shaggy. And last but not least, the beautiful, sexy black leather lounge chairs.
Perfect.
This contemporary architecture is completed with nuances of metal and glass, sometimes encompassing the whole design and building, resulting in a beautiful architectural masterpiece that leaves its owners and those who view it in awe. This truly is a finest home.